Hello and welcome to the In the Money Players podcast. This is our show that we are recording on Thursday, October 19th for the races, mostly of the 21st. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornatow, coming to you from the Brooklyn Bunker once again. A lot of action to cover, international action with stops later in the show to the Far East in Japan and also north of the border to Canada. But we start off in the bluegrass state of Kentucky. And to do that with me, we bring in the usual co-host of this program, the man, the myth, the legend, Jonathan Kitchen. What's up, JK?
Pete, have you ever had to prove that you're doing a podcast by taking a picture of yourself doing a podcast? Has that ever happened to you before? Because someone wants to ask you a question.
Yeah, I've taken a picture of myself doing a podcast for sure, but I've never done it to prove that. Who's busting your shoes over there?
No, I didn't respond to a message earlier, so I was trying to prove that I was been running around like a psychopath.
You're settled now, though. You're settled. Tell us about your adventures, your peregrinations today, if you will.
Oh man, people couldn't digest what I do from a travel standpoint. I was in Saratoga this morning at 5 a.m. Now I am in New Braunfels, Texas. Austin gets out of school here in about an hour and a half. And then I'm here until Tuesday. Then I go back to Saratoga on Tuesday. And then I'm in Saratoga until the following Wednesday. And then I go to California for the Breeders' Cup. Then I fly back to Saratoga. And then I fly the following Monday to Chicago for the Duke basketball game. I fly back to Austin to pick up Austin. Then I fly to New York for Thanksgiving. Then I fly back from New York to Austin to drop Austin off, and then I go somewhere else, but I can't remember where it's at. It's a lot.
It's a lot. I get tired. I get stressed out. My travel stress kicks in just listening to that. There's not enough Xanax in the world for me to be able to pilot with you on those journeys, my friend. But we admire you for it. We got a few different things, a little bit different today because we're doing something a little funny, but it's all going to work out. Audio people, we're starting out by looking at this all-turf pick 3 at Keeneland. Then we're going to do a couple of evergreen segments that are also going to have a video component, which if you want, you can go watch over on our YouTube channel. But it kicks off with race number 4 at Keeneland on Saturday, where we've got these fillies and mares in the allowance ranks going 1 mile on the turf. A couple of runners I wanted to nominate in here. And one thing about this pick 3, and we'll talk more strategically about this a little bit later in the show, but I do feel like you have the ability to use some favorites and press up some favorites in smart ways that makes me not scared of them at all. And one that I had marked up very interested in is number 8, Via Reggio. I do think this horse will probably be the favorite, but just has a couple of things I like. I don't really think handled the Kentucky Downs course, was in a difficult situation there too, trying to close into blue fractions. Very soft turf the time before at Delaware, also kind of an unusual course. I think on this one's best form fits pretty well with this allowance group, and I think it's going to get a pretty good trip in here. She was one of the numbers I wanted on my tickets to light this candle, as it were. How about you, JK? Who do you like in this fourth race, at Keeneland come this Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I'm going to use the 8 Via Reggio as well. You know, when you talk about Kentucky Downs, and you see this often at Keeneland, I think these horses that run at Kentucky Downs, it's a built-in excuse. Or it's also a built-in negative, I guess, if you want to call it, where you can look at a horse who ran well at Kentucky Downs and you can say, oh, well, they only ran well because it was there. You can also look at a horse that ran poorly at Kentucky Downs and say, oh, they didn't like Kentucky Downs. It's kind of a nice handicapping crutch if you want to try to formulate an opinion. I'm going to use Via Reggio. I think she'll run well here. I'm not crazy about the 4 a day. I'm guessing that's what it is, or a day or a day in Asia. I really want to make sure I have the 2 Auvert. Is that how you're calling that, Pete? Auvert?
I'd go Ouve on that one. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you. That's why you're.
I never took French, but I dated a French girl for a while. I'm pretty sure it's Ouve.
Okay. Well, Ouve it is, just like Vouve, right?
There you go. I like Ouve too. Give the case.
Well, look, when you go 6.5 at Kentucky Downs, to me, it's like 6.5 down the hill at Santa Anita. I think it plays to horses that can go a little bit further because, you know, especially Kentucky Downs, you finish kind of on an uphill. It's an undulated track. So I think if you can go 6.5 there, you can do it go all other place. And the other thing about Uve is that the pace figures of that race were very fast early. So that even gives me more indication with that early energy that was used in that 6.5 race, that the stretch out shouldn't be a problem. So for me, those are the only two I was going to use.
8 and 2, little bit. You mentioned a day in Asia, but you're against. So we're in lockstep here, 8-2 to kick things off. What was your quick thought on a day in Asia?
No, it's just one of those horses that when it's Christophe Clement and Flavien Prat, you're going to get bet for no reason. And I just think this horse on paper is the third best horse in the group. So I'm not going to include and waste the equity.
I get it. Maybe one to back up on connections alone if you got something super strong in either of these legs, but I was going to try to get out 8-2 as well. The next race in the All-Turf Pick 3 is race number 8. Fillies and mares in the allowance ranks going 1 mile and a 16th, and a big full field turning up in this one. You mentioned Pratt before. I was pretty interested in Filtra in this spot, JK, coming out of the stake at Kentucky Downs with some good form on traditional courses as well. Just looks like one that's in pretty good spot to fire another good bullet. Just a very honest horse that seems to do pretty darn well with her racing. You know, the only the standout speed effort going 1.5 miles at Churchill, not so good, but lots of other good races on her form. I was very interested in St. Filtra, also very interested in an old friend, Haughty, in this spot for Chad Brown. This one coming out of a couple of races, closing into blue fractions. I thought might have a little bit more of an honest pace to run at, and horse I've always liked who might be in the right spot here. So I was going to mainly go 7 and 9. Very curious to get your thoughts.
It's funny. I mean, those are the only two I was going to use. And I started to kind of think about singling Haughty, getting Lasix for the first time, which I thought was interesting. Look, she's always shown a ton of talent. She's always shown a bunch of ability. And, but she's always kind of banged her head in these, these stakes races, right? I think she gets in a little bit softer here. And then, the 7 horse that you mentioned, I won't try to pronounce that, got a wide trip last time, kind of all the way around there. And now you get the slight cutback and went a little bit further last time. Those are the only two that I really needed in here. And those are the only two that I was going to use.
We're going to win or lose together in this spot. It sounds like one of the things I love about Haughty, just looking at a pace map, figures to have much more of this field behind her than in front of her at the pace call, and has a kick. So I just think a great trip is going to be on offer for that one, and I imagine Pratt on St. Filtra will be right in behind. So I think we can count on a couple of pretty good trips to get us to the third leg of this All-Turf Pick 3. Maybe we'll do some bonus coverage. I didn't prep you for the Raven Run, but I'll give my opinion on the Raven Run after this anyway. But for now, we'll skip ahead to race number 10, where we've got an open allowance race going 5.5 on the turf, and not a ton of early speed signed on in this race, JK, which I thought might set it up for one of the two that I wanted to use in here. We'll start with number 5, Axthelm, a horse I've always liked. It's really good from a condition point of view, I think. Second off the layoff, had the leg stretcher last time. It was a Kentucky Downs 7, so that's more like 1 mile. This one just sort of emptied out all over the hill. Cut back to 5.5. Some good back numbers. Really like Axthelm. Should sit in a great spot. One that's going to be, I think, in front of him if pace figures are accurate, or maybe right behind him. Number 8, Counter Strike, another one I wanted as a potential best of speed. I think this one's going to hold together against Fauci in this spot, who's listed as the 2-1 morning line favorite. I'm going to try to get out 5-8, 8-5. I'll call it 5-8 officially to close out this All-Turf Pick 3. Don't tell me we have the same number 3 races in a row. That'll be a first.
No, we're close. 5-8 I'm going to use for sure. You talked about the speed being a little bit void. We know how the speed can be really dangerous going 5.5 at Keeneland, or you're just turf sprinting anywhere. So I want to make sure I have the 5 and the 8. There's not a whole lot I can add there in terms of what you already said, but I will say this about the 11 Fauci. I remember at Saratoga this summer, and I believe it was before that August 24th race, where Fauci has kind of always been in the mix, but he wasn't always, he never really got there. And I remember he was gelded, if I'm not mistaken, before that August 24th race, or maybe it was before the July 28th. Okay. Well, I don't know if they announced it then. It was just, how that can get weird sometimes. Yes. My point is that I do believe, and I remember Keisha or Maggie that pointed out that Fauci, kind of seemed to look a little bit better after the gelding. And then the last two, he had 2 races where he ran extremely well and actually overcame some scenarios. In both of those races, he gets Lasix for the first time. He's drawn outside, so he's going to be in the clear all the way around there. If we can get a couple of horses to keep it at least honest, I think Fauci can win. I want to make sure I use him in this $3 minimum turf pick 3.
5, 8, 11. Would that be your numbers in order, or do you like Fauci enough to put him up to the top spot?
No. 5, 8, 11. So my ticket is 2 by 2 by 3. So we're talking 4 times 3. We're talking 12 combinations at a minimum of $3. So JK tries math. $36 is the base investment for the ticket.
JK tries math succeeds. And again, a little bit later in the show, like in a minute here, we're going to talk about some strategy for this bet. But first, let's go back to the Raven Run, just because I had a fairly strong opinion in this spot, JK, which is that I think Dazzling Blue is going to go a lot better. I just think that last race in the Prioress at Saratoga is one of those races that just looks so much worse than it actually is, because this horse didn't break. Then Rosario got to see Alva Star sort of running away from the field, made this middle move to try to get there, and just was absolutely no match. Got horrified on the day, but that was also kind of a speed favoring track. That's how Timeform had it anyway, with a bright red coating on there. I think this time around, with maybe some more pace in the form of Lady Radler, to at least try to keep Alva Star honest, I think Dancing Blue, who was heavily favored the last day against Alva Star, might be able to just turn those tables. You're going to see a lot of money in this spot for Vava as well. But, that big race, that's such a different deal doing the 3 turn 7 furlongs at Charlestown on this traditional configuration. Dazzling Blue had her on the book two times ago. I just thought, anything like this morning line of 9-2, give me Dazzling Blue in the Raven Run. Did you have a quick thought on that one?
Yeah, I mean, if Alva Star runs her Prioress, she's going to win.
Wins.
If she runs her Dashing Beauty, she also probably wins. And I think sometimes when you have that 2 performances that you can kind of lean to or look to say if she runs those, she'll win. I get the idea trying to get cute with a horse like Dazzling Blue or even the idea of Ava. But, man, it's hard for me when you have a horse like Alva Star. If she shows up and runs, I think she'll be tough. She's had 2 works over the track at Keeneland, 58 flat in the work 2 back. This isn't a new 58 flat at Keeneland work. I think she'll be ready to run.
All right, we shall see how that plays out.